Hey there, mama friend, and welcome to the 5-Minute Mom Podcast, where we'll talk about real life, real faith, real fast. For today's show notes or to get free Monday Mom Devotionals, visit audrahaney.com. Hey friends, I am so excited to have you here for episode 1 today. If for some reason you missed episode 0, it tells you a little bit about me as your host and what you can expect on the podcast. And later this week, we're going to have an amazing interview with Jessica Honegger about her story of overcoming fear to start her company Noonday Collection. Please make time for that. It's about 25 minutes long, but it's so good, and I want to make sure that you give that a listen because you're not going to be disappointed if you do. So today we're going to talk about fear versus faith, and I don't know what you're on the cusp of today. Maybe it's starting motherhood, starting a new job. Maybe you're leaving your old job to be a stay-at-home mom. Maybe you're starting homeschool or your children are starting public school. Maybe you're moving to a new city or answering a call to ministry. Either way, stepping out in obedience to the Lord can be so scary because it requires so much more than our physical minds and eyes can perceive. And in fact, it often requires a blind leap of trust with very little details worked out, with our eyes fixed on Jesus alone. When it comes to fear, one of my favorite stories in the Old Testament is the story of the 12 spies. And God showed it to me in a whole new way the year I became a mom. Moses faithfully led the Israelites out of captivity, and they had marched through the desert, seeing God's faithfulness at every turn. And it was time to scope out the land that was promised to them. And the land was amazing, just as God had said, but there was opposition. There were giants in the land. And 10 of the spies, as most of us know this story very well, came back and told the congregation of people, there's no way. These people are huge. We look like tiny bugs. I'm obviously paraphrasing here, but you get the point. And while this story is so familiar, part of this negative report was something that I had skipped over before I was a mom. In Numbers 14:2, it says, all the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in Egypt or in the wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the swords? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. So did you catch that? Our wives and our children will be taken as plunder. Can you relate to this at all? God, I trust you, but I don't trust you with my kid. God, what if this thing you're calling me to is too much for my family? I'd go on that mission trip, but I'm really worried about my kids. These giants are too big to fight. I trust you, but not with my family. And guys, I can so relate to this. It's natural and it's great to want to protect and shield our families from harm. That's the way God wired us as moms. But when we make that our God over the one true God, we are choosing fear over faith. Recently, I felt this way when God asked our family to move to start a new ministry job in a new city. We had to leave all of our friends and our deep support group. And I was pregnant with my second child, and my oldest daughter was going to have to leave her friends and her school and her church and all that we'd ever loved. And I wanted to choose comfort for them. I didn't want to trust God at first, but I'm so glad that I did. We kind of had a rough transition, but today my kids are thriving even more, and I've seen God's amazing provision and goodness in all of it. In a recent Monday Mom Devotional, I wrote this: your children need peace, comfort, and stability, but even more, they need to see you become a warrior, a problem solver, an overcomer for your family. They need to see you put on your armor, put rocks in your slingshot, and start marching around the walls. Don't just hide their eyes from the giants. Show them how our God makes them fall. But here's the later part of the chapter I don't want you to miss. Because Joshua and Caleb were the 2 spies that did trust God and said, if the Lord is pleased with us, He'll lead us into the land flowing with milk and honey and give it to us. Do not be afraid of them. And this is how God responded to their faith in Numbers 14:24. But because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him in the land he went to, and his descendants will inherit it. If Caleb would have chosen fear instead of faith, he would have robbed his children of the very best inheritance. So friends, this is my reminder for you today. If God calls you to it, it may be so hard and it may be so scary and there may be giants, but it very well may be the very start of blessing your children with the spiritual inheritance that God has in store for them. He put them in your family for a reason, and His heart for you and your child is huge, and He'll be faithful to give you the victory. Do not be afraid. Be strong in the Lord and the power of His might. So that's the end of our 5 minutes. Please tune in again soon. If you want to learn more about me or sign up for the podcast newsletter or get a free devotional, visit audrahaney.com. And if you enjoyed this, would you please leave a quick review? Reviews are so important for podcasters, and it helps more moms find us, and it would be a great blessing.